Good morning and welcome back to the New Forest for this look back at some of the things that went on in the forest during July and August this year. If you're wondering why I'm standing in front of a pile of logs, then keep watching. July began as June left off, with cool days and showers on more days than not. The stallions that were let out in May were due to be taken off the forest in early July. Suzanne Kemp, the owner of Brook Hill Vineyard, who we saw earlier, contacted me to let me know when and where she would be collecting her stallion. Here he is, having a good scratch against the war memorial at Bolton's Bench, outside of Lyndhurst. He's travelled about 4 miles from where he was released in May, and during the last 8 weeks he's spent time with at least 3 groups of mares. He's been quite busy. Suzanne said that he'd be easy to catch, and he was. Yes.
But we've had the mares laying and trotting after the trailer.
He followed his feed bowl up into the trailer. His mares weren't too pleased to see him go though, and became quite agitated. He goes off in his trailer, leaving his mares still very frisky. Calm is restored. Brook Hill who? And here he is, back home with one of his mares, and one of his many sons. July the 15th is St Swithin's Day. Legend has it that the weather on St Swithin's Day will last for another 40 days, whether that's wet or dry. There is actually a meteorological justification for this, which I've included in the text below. Well, St Swithin's Day this year was a lovely summer's day, no rain and not too hot. 2 days later we had a heat wave which lasted about 5 days. The farmers were all very busy getting as much hay made as they could while the weather was dry. It was very hot and these ponies weren't in a hurry to move out of the shade. And these butterflies made the most of the sun. The heat wave didn't last, and we were soon back to the usual, sunny periods and showers. St Swithin let us down this year. Back in April, I showed you this picture of a roebuck molting his winter coat. He looked a bit moth-eaten. Here he is with his beautiful russet red summer coat. Very handsome. Similarly, we saw these fallow deer bucks in June growing their new antlers, which were covered in a velvet skin back then. In August they looked like this, all ready for the rutting season. Back at Brook Hill Vineyard in early July, the vines are flowering. Not the most dramatic flowers you'll ever see. The vines are self-pollinating, so they don't need to waste energy producing bright-coloured flowers to attract insects. If you visit a vineyard anywhere in the world, you'll usually see roses at the end of the rows of vines. Whilst they brighten up the vineyard, they also serve a useful purpose. The roses are prone to disease, so if the roses show signs of mildew, for example, it's a sign that the vines need to be sprayed. Ian's recently sprayed the vines here with a sulphur spray to protect against mildew. In practice, if the roses have mildew, the vines probably already have it too. So the roses are really an assurance. If the roses are healthy, the vines will be healthy too. Here's a vine with downy mildew. You can see the rust-coloured spots on the leaves. In late July, the bunches of grapes are growing bigger. The vine leaves around the grapes need to be taken off to allow the sun to shine on the grapes. Once the leaves have been removed, you can see how the grapes have grown. Now we're in late August, and the bunches of grapes are really progressing. Due to the cool weather this year, the grapes are about 4 weeks behind where they'd usually be at this time, so the harvest won't begin until the end of September, unless the weather warms up. We'll come back then and help with the harvest. In late July, the heather is in flower, and the open areas of the forest are a sea of purple and red. Local beekeepers take advantage of this and move their beehives out onto the forest so that the bees can make heather honey, which is very popular. Once the bird nesting season was over, the forestry resumed their tree felling programme. That includes you, Edith. No messing about with chainsaws. This is a proper forestry boy's toy. The machine clamps onto the base of the tree and cuts through the trunk. It then guides the tree down to the ground, causing the minimum of damage. The trunk is sawn up into predefined lengths. The lengths are defined by the sawmill which has bought the wood. The lengths of timber are then left in piles around the wood. The collecting truck picks up the lengths of wood and takes them to the side of the nearby track. The logs are later collected by lorries from the sawmill and taken away. These will mainly be used in the building industry and for fence posts. Sadly, the New Forest show was cancelled for the second year running due to COVID. Hopefully it will be back in August 2022. The forest campsites were open this year though, and they were busy, as were the local pubs and restaurants. As August progressed, the foals were growing. Some early fungi appeared. Towards the end of August, the showers finally stopped and we had some dry weather. Though not particularly warm. At least the forest dried out. Although we haven't had a glorious summer this year, the rains kept the grass growing and the ponies all look in great condition. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to see the next video diary update at the end of October.